Welcome to Meet My Friends, the podcast. Welcome back to Meet My Friends. I'm Lindsay, and this week I'm sitting down with a true character, my friend and building manager, John Austin. The frontier of Hollywood isn't all glitz and glamour. It's a wild, unpredictable trail, and few have ridden it quite like John Austin. Hailing from Texas, John set out for Los Angeles with big dreams, no roadmap, and a willingness to take on just about any job to pay the rent. By day, he's my building manager, known for doing chin-ups on the garage door track, but from 2001 to 2006, he found himself in a very different kind of workplace. Shooting porn in the San Fernando Valley at the height of its early 2000s heyday. From behind the camera, John saw it all, the chaos, the comedy, and the characters that made up an industry most people only whisper about. He's got stories, he's got opinions, and somehow he's still standing chasing that Hollywood dream. So saddle up, because this one is a ride. Welcome back to the Meet My Friends podcast. I'm Lindsay, and I'm sitting down today with my friend John. I met John originally because he was my building manager.
A real building manager.
Not
someone who is impersonating a building
That's
manager.
right. A real building manager, not an impersonating building manager. And I remember I called you up to come on today because I remember you were fixing my garbage disposal.
Is that what you call it?
Yeah. And I remember you started going on about, you told me about how you you had a screenplay and you had someone try to steal your screenplay in Texas.
Yeah.
And then you got a little bit into when you worked in the porn industry out here in the Valley. And you
First of all, in the
moved to LA.
screenplay, tried to steal it. They did steal it.
How did that go down?
Well, he went down.
He went down.
Yeah, and not in a
Flattering way.
Hollywood West Side kind of way. He went down hard, the old Fort Worth
Texas way.
I took him down off the back porch. So yeah, he learned a lesson, and so did we. Just make sure you own everything before you let someone have it, because they'll look at it and they'll give it back to you, and next thing you know, they're picking up an award for your toil.
What was that script about?
It was I'll say it was called Monster Beach Party.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was sort of based off those 60s, Frankie and Annette, for everybody out there that remembers Pockets and sliced bread. And it was all about these aliens, and they were sort of like this 60s, almost like a glam, like if you can imagine the B-52s, that style of music. Well, they were from outer space, and they crash landed here, and while trying to fix their craft to get back to their planet or whatever, they were hiding out and living life in Southern California and impersonating as a band.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And they were at parties.
They were doing shows,
parties.
and the Monster Beach Party was this big, huge party. They were trying to get the money together so that to pay this wacky scientist to help them rebuild their ship and all that. I'm reminded not to drop names, but if you're familiar with Bowie and the Man Who Fell to Earth, he became like this wealthy guy to get enough money to pay, scientists or technicians, whatever, to help him build his craft to get back to his dying planet, that whole thing. So anyway, Monster Beach Party. Yeah.
I love the title.
Yeah.
And I can totally see it being like surfer pop.
Yeah, it's exactly. And we were using a real band from Edinburgh, Scotland. They were called the Ravillos, Faye Fife and Eugene Reynolds. You can actually Google them. And a lot of their music that's online would have been the soundtrack. "Where's a Boy for Me" and was one of the songs was on there, and they were totally cool. They had the beehive haircuts, hairdos and purple and everything like that. And what happened was this guy held on to the script for about 3 months. I requested it back, put up the cash, become a producer, or give us our script back. And he eventually did. And then what happened, a couple months later, a film came out called Computer Beach Party. And it was an absolute ripoff only it was
the worst title.
But he got it made on a shoestring, but basically he ripped us off on that. And
he took your script, he made it Computer Beach Party,
and that ended up with a foot chase through a Dallas office building on the 8th floor
with a baseball bat
until he met with a locked door, and that was the end of that story for him.
Oh, shit.
And I was a young man at that time, so younger, and I just took things in my own hands, like a
Texan man.
Like a Texan.
And to paint the picture, because people right now can't see John, you go by John Austin, right?
I do, yeah.
You're 6'4"?
No, 6'5".
6'5".
Yeah, if I get into my
You go by our building, you see John doing chin-ups on the parking lot garage door. That's right, because our gym is right by it.
Gym right next to me, and I'm doing pull-ups, I'm doing at the Rocky Balboa training camp out there,
I wouldn't want to steal your screenplay, I'll say that. Well, I think that I'd rather have you on my team than against me.
Well,
sure.
it just showed us, and we were there in Dallas, and it was a sort of a Texas version of what was rampant, I'm sure, in the industry in Hollywood.
Right.
And even if you register your work,
we didn't have the digital paper trail like they do today, even.
I mean, you get into a court and a judge will say, well, there's a lot of similarities here, but not enough to really take action, that sort of thing. And we were young. We didn't have any money to get good lawyers or whatever. We had enough money maybe to, pay somebody to go get a little bit of skin,
right,
if you will.
But for Monster Beach Party.
Yeah.
The timing wasn't right. So you moved, then you were living in LA already at the time, or then you moved to LA after that?
No, I came to LA after that. Everybody, like every, guy and girl with a dream, I'm going to go out to LA and I'm going to get on the soap operas and the rest will be history.
And then what year was that?
1991.
Okay, cool. And then somewhere in the mix of auditioning and chasing the dream and getting new headshots every 2 years and X and Y, you got roped up into working on set out here in the Valley in what I would call like the prime time of the adult entertainment industry.
We called it internet content. And there was this pesky thing called rent that kept coming up every month or so. And what had happened was I was managing a building, and I had at that time the two girls who were in the industry, very well known. I mean, AVN winners, like 4 years in a row.
Okay.
It was like the Grammys of the adult industry. And I'm sitting around, I don't know if I had a vodka bottle or a pistol barrel in my mouth regarding the rent. But anyway, I was like, hey, one of the girls says, hey, I know this guy, he's looking for a production assistant. And she gave me his number, and I ended up calling him. And he said, yeah, come on down and check out the studio. And so I went down and checked it out. And it wasn't in the Valley. It was in Koreatown. And I said, what are you looking for? And he says, I just need somebody to hold the light, paint sets, move equipment around. And it's basically a two-man operation and check IDs, just a production assistant, if you will. I'm like, what does it pay? Back then, $15 an hour, that was like gold, if I can. Right. Podcast, I can curse, I suppose.
Yes.
So I'm like, yeah, that sounds good. And, you got to look at it like a kid in a candy store, whether it's, it's like having a stack of magazines in front of you. If you're going to go in, all of a sudden you find yourself in a studio where they're shooting adult content, and you're just looking around. And this was all kind of, we ran from A to Z on the adult thing. So
all in K-Town at the moment.
Yeah. And I was always good with a camera, and my boss was really good with a 20 sack and a pack of rolling papers. And so he would disappear with some of the other talent now and again. And since we were on a schedule, he would say, hey.
He'd radio you?
Yeah, he'd say, what we do. Go in there, you want to go in there and shoot this for me. You know what I need? I need, 5 positions and a pop, and make sure you get your stills. And if you run into any problems, give me a call, and I'll come in there. Having come up in the clubs in Texas, just shooting with a camcorder back then, and I used to frame a shot and hit record and then stop before I moved away from that shot, and then I'd go to my next shot and frame it and hit and record again. And so what happens when you had playback, it was almost seamless. It was like it had been edited, but it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
It literally,
you're doing setup,
jump cutting, if you will. Yeah. And so I did that out of habit, and my boss, we were shooting, I remember Sony, we were using PD-170s, I think, just back then. And this was a Digicams. It was still on tape at that time. And so anyway, he ended up, I shot a couple of scenes and he sent those to the editor.
So this is like specifically one day your boss was in the back trailer doing whatever he's doing, and he radios you to jump in and start getting coverage.
Well, there was no radios. No, this was in Koreatown in one of those old buildings.
They just screamed across the room.
7,000 square foot. We had a big psych in there, cyclorama. White. I built 6 sets, including a jail. I had it's so easy to make a set. You just find a corner, you put up a flat, 10 by 10 flat, and you just push a sofa in the corner and a desk, and there's your office. And
you got a porn set.
It's just ridiculous stuff, and it really was. And so I ended up shooting, and he ended up getting emails from one of the clients and said, hey, who shot, whatever the title was, 24, 25, and 26. And my boss sat up, and I won't name names, but he sat up real quick. Why? Was there a problem? And he had the guy on speakerphone, and the guy said, no, because whoever the shooter was, he saved us like 10 hours in the edit bay, which saves all of us money, which makes you more money. And so anyway, my boss basically came to me and said, look, we're picking up more websites. We're getting more sites. We're getting a lot busier. I was thinking about hiring a new shooter, and you want to do that. The shooter's a director, basically, is what we called him back then.
Okay.
And I said, well, what do you offer? And he said, well, I give you $200 a scene, and
a scene means the complete shoot.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean one setup.
Yeah, and a shoot basically an average would be 3 guys and 3 girls. So you'd have a boy girl for one complete scene, and you would do all 3 of them, and that would make up one DVD or VHS tape, or whichever the format.
So each couple is a scene. So for a DVD, you might get 600?
Yeah. And so I ended up doing that 3 times a week. And instead of $15 an hour, I'm making basically, $200 a day or $600 to $800 a week. If I worked on Saturday, I was making $1,000 a week. And
that's
I said,
pretty good. I mean, going from $15 an hour.
Yeah, beats hell out of being a soap actor.
What kind of drama did you have on set between like the talent? Like, was there ever like 2 of the stars fighting or not wanting to get along with each other?
A lot of people that rent. And back then it was going, you had to rent them, whether it was DVDs or whatever. It wasn't streaming. There was no streaming at this time. You're talking 2000 to 2006. And, shooting adult entertainment actually in Los Angeles County was illegal up until 1988. I mean, if you were caught on any location, everyone went to jail and everything was seized.
Wow.
And then, that pesky Bill of Rights and, Constitution came to play, and all of a sudden it was deemed entertainment and therefore protected. And then the business really started to flourish up until 2012 when they voted to make condom mandatory. And then the industry dropped off about 55%.
Because they went and started shooting in places like Florida.
They left. They went elsewhere and everything. And the whole condom thing was just ridiculous. Not necessarily totally in its scope, but I mean, it's like if you think about the industry, if anyone's ever paid attention to the industry, in my life, I can only recall, and I don't know their names, but I can only recall 3 instances where it was on the news that a porn actor, known or slightly known, was reported to have contracted HIV. However, each one of those was done offset in their free time. Mm-hmm. And one of them actually caught it while working in Brazil and came back to the U.S. and had it and actually passed it along, because the industry was already policing itself with AIM testing, every 28 days or every 30 days, if you will. You had to show your AIM test. And then there was a lot of people that would cheat on their test and try to save themselves $100 and while risking their health overall. So that was sort of, the industry was policing itself. And there's a lot of negativity I can say about that industry and a lot of nice things. But then again, I can say that about managing an apartment building or working as a carpenter or an attorney or anything. There's good,
you're dealing with
bad,
personalities, you're dealing with people.
But regarding the funny stories and all that, but no, I'd be in my office and I would have a girl that would come in and say, listen, I can't work with this guy. He smells.
Oh, that's got to be horrible.
I would just go in and the guy'd be in the kitchen or something like, making a drink. And I'm not talking about alcohol or anything like that, but and I'd say, and I would just, casually say, hey, Jack, we got about 20 minutes. Why don't you hit the shower and I'll meet you on set? Just sort of a hint instead of saying, look, brother, you stink. And so I had issues like that. And then I had other talent that used to drive up from San Diego after playing basketball all morning, and they didn't give a fuck. They would just go right on set and literally grab the chicks and just manhandle them. And it's funny because I'm not known for being misogynistic in any way. I mean, I'm a really good guy. I got into a business. I started making really good money. I was a kid in the candy store. I'm around all these beautiful bodies and, the women and all that. I had bought a new car. I bought a Harley. I bought 2 Harleys. I was doing good. And I was going to Vegas but it took me away from my goal and the whole reason why I came to LA. So I'm still, I'm a little ambivalent about that because it kind of robbed me of 6 years. But then again, there was a lot of excitement there. But I had situations where, the performance would start to get really, it wasn't acting at all. It is what it is. It's still a physical thing. But then again, I have to say, stop, let me get around behind you.
Let me set up the camera.
Excuse me while I get down, I'm not asking you to set your ball sack on the back of my neck, but I need to get the camera up underneath you. It was like Twister.
So how many people would be on the set? It'd be you with the camera.
Me and a guy and a girl.
Sound guy.
Yeah. No sound guy. No, PD 150s and 170, regular palm quarter. So handy cams.
And that was
the Canon XL1s. This is back in the day with those. No, you could do it now with an iPhone.
Okay.
You don't need any lighting.
Right.
My first job when he hired me was I had to run the sea light. And I go, what's the sea light? And all that was if you remember at your grandma's house in the backyard, that dish light with the light bulb inside of it that looked out on the patio, those aluminum clip-on things.
Yes.
I would hold one of those with a piece of vellum or to diffuse the light.
Of course.
So we could see. That's what a sea light was.
Right.
And I would kneel down while, go between the guy's legs and aim the light up there until my boss would nod his head because he wasn't getting...
And you would Hollywood it, which means you would hold it. You wouldn't even put it on a stand.
No,
you would just be standing there holding it.
You just rolling...
They probably do that with LEDs and stuff now.
Rolling around on one of those little mechanics dollies that you sit on to roll around. And so it was just me and him. And then when I was shooting my own stuff, I did it all by myself. We had 2 1Ks, one on each side. And then, you shoot your stills for the box covers and all that. And it was real. It's so funny. We shot inside CVS. We shot inside Burger King. We shot in the subway.
In a Burger King?
Yeah, right.
How did you get into Burger King?
Well, what these were, it's like the pickups. Anyone that's ever seen a woman standing on the corner and the van pulls up, hey, what's going on? And she's like, oh, I just dropped my son off at soccer and I got 2 hours to kill. And they're like, oh, hey, well,
come in the van for a minute. We have $100
My office is right around the corner. Come have a drink with us or whatever.
So you go into the Burger King and you shoot like the preamble kind of thing.
Yeah. It's like me and the talent, I'm pointing the camera at him and we're walking through a Walgreens, and we already sent the girl in there, and we told her, like, go back where the WD-40 and the other lubes are. It'll be a little funny. It would be a running joke.
Right.
And then we'd be walking through the aisles or whatever. I'm chatting with the camera, POV. He's looking right at me, and I'm talking to him. Hey, I wonder if there's any hot women in here. And then he's like, oh, dude, check this out. And we'll see her down there, and she's like sex on a stick. What is she doing back there looking at fucking
wearing that outfit,
what she's
shelf,
wearing?
Yeah.
And so we would walk up to her, and it was just this corny exchange between the two of them. And next thing you know, let's go back to we got a place right around the corner. And then before we left, out in the parking lot, we would shoot what would be the drop off, like, well, thanks, we had a really good time. Wow, you're fantastic. How can I get a hold of you again? And then, you put that in the can, and then you would go back to the studio, and then
get the main
here's
action.
the office. You walk through a door, and there's that desk that was pushed into a corner, to make a little set or whatever. So, and it's stupid looking. If you've seen the movie Boogie Nights, where Dirk Diggler has his first scene where he walks into the office unemployed looking for a job. It's so corny. It's so cornball and stupid. Yeah. But when I look at stuff like that, it cracks me up because you have what's called storyline videos. There is actual adult entertainment that has budgets of $50,000, $100,000, $200,000, and they're well made. They have actual production crews, just like any commercial shoot or anything else. I mean, it's really involved. And a lot of people during hiatus or during strikes who have sound kits or grip trucks or whatever, they will put themselves out there for the larger adult shoots. But then you got your gonzo guys that have their little handy cam, and they got a budget of $4,800 and you just go out and you shoot. And that was the heyday. That was back then.
What's the ranking of jobs? So obviously the best job for a porn star would be to get one of those big budget films, like a Pirates or something, right?
Yeah, well, there's more money for the same thing, but then you can't get those that often.
Right. So do you start shooting for something big like that, kind of like in Hollywood, how you shoot for the leading lady or leading man role, and then maybe you take some best friend roles along the way, or what is
I think it's a lot
strategy for those people?
I think it's a lot like Hollywood. If you already know somebody who's in the biz or big in the biz, and they can introduce you to somebody and say, hey, give him a shot or give her a shot, or she's really great. Those big pictures, they want you to be able to act. It's not just, they're not looking for some big woodsman, he's fucking swinging cock, and they, that's what we want. He can't act. It doesn't matter. That's the storyline videos that have dialogue. The rest of them, there really isn't. Hey, when you come through the door, say something like, I'm looking for a job, and then I want you to, kind of toy with them, and then you guys just go into it and just wing it. There is no dialogue. There isn't anything. And that's just your gonzo shit. But, it's funny because it brings up a joke. There are people that actually watch. And I remember getting emails telling me that the duvet and the pillowcases didn't match.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, well, fuck, I got them. I got them at I don't know if it was the Ross or the Marshalls or whatever. And I'm like, I got them off the clearance. What are you looking at the pillowcases for anyway, dude? What are you paying $19 a month to look at, wall art? You're supposed to be looking at the talent. Yeah. So I would get things like that and
I can't believe people have the time to send those emails.
I had my cat, my beloved Himalayan, and I had this beautiful picture of him framed. And in all of my bedroom shots, I would set that framed photo of my cat. And right after the pop shot, I would slowly pan over and zoom in on my cat, and that would end the scene.
So your cat's in a bunch of your projects.
He's in at least 15 of them. Yeah.
Because why not?
There's 100 stories, and one leads to another and another. And the point I'm making about all this is that when someone looks at content, whether they get a DVD, CD, whether or not they stream or whatever, they immediately see something and they don't realize just the overall logistics to putting something together. I mean, you just don't grab your partner and just spin them over and, take a drive up the old dirt road. It just doesn't happen. There's a little preparation there. There's a little, there's been preparation. I'll just put it that way. You know what I mean? It is filmmaking.
What do you mean? You plan out the scenes.
I'm talking about, hey, it is what it is. Here's a fleet enema. Go in the shower and do a clear water enema before you come out, because you're doing the big A today.
Yeah,
So we're going to do the A today, and don't use what comes in the bottle from the store. Drain it out and refill it with water.
Right.
And there's a reason for that.
Still dry somebody out or something?
Because one really loosens you up, everything else, and the other one just cleans you out.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, and you don't want certain things. I'll tell you one thing. It was against the law to show any blood.
Oh, shit.
And sometimes, as we all know, we're all adults, and if we've all had the sex act, been in the sex act at some time, maybe even if you just kiss too hard and you cut your lip on somebody's incisor, you might get a little blood. But if blood were to show up, you can't use that footage.
Okay.
You can't show that. So there were occasions when I would stop rolling and my boss would like thump me and go, dude, what are you doing? And I go, she's bleeding. Or he's bleeding. And fuck it, just keep rolling. Now, this is the misogynist assholes that are rife in that industry, the ones that they don't give a fuck.
Right.
And me being a nice guy, I'm like, no, look, she's in pain or he's in pain or whatever. I mean, I had a group of girls from Japan that come over here twice a year, and they shoot about 100 scenes in 2 weeks, and then they go back to Japan. They're actually brought over here by handlers. It's actually an industry. And those girls, a lot of them,
are they professionals or is that like trafficking?
no, you know what? Knowing what I know now.
Dating back to 2000.
You know what? It's like trafficking.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah.
I mean, because you know what I mean? That's my opinion. But these girls would like be down on a concrete floor, and I'd look in on their face. They're in pain because their knees. They're kneeling on a rough.
Concrete floor.
Yeah. So I'd drop the camera and I'd throw down a furniture pad, and then everybody's looking at me like, "Dude, what are you doing?" And I'm gonna get gross here. And I said, no, she's on the concrete. She's getting hurt. Fuck her, dude. She's here to suck cock. Don't worry about what she does. Keep shooting.
God, yeah.
Excuse me, but that's the business, and that's the main business. I got into that business out of excitement, curiosity, and an income. It consumed 6 years of my life, and then I got out of it for the contempt that I had for it, for being basically a good guy. But I'm in an industry that I'm not saying doesn't have good guys and girls in it, but for the most part, it was a daily grind of drug use, alcoholism, fiscal misprudence, misogynist attitude, ignorance, just recklessness.
Toxic.
And it's funny, my demeanor's starting to get a little caustic right now, but when I start thinking back, I'm just angry that for the most part I wasted 6 years of my life, but it gave me a lot of really cool stories. Yeah, I mean, I've seen things.
As a performer, like how much you can, how much you saw that you could use in character.
Well,
too,
I looked at it.
I think is so valuable.
I looked at people. I've always been a voyeur. I went to college. I got my BA in psychology, sociology, behavioral sciences. I've always studied people. I've been curious what makes people tick. I realize that there's a common thread of behavior that runs through all of us, regardless if we're from a ghetto or we're from the penthouse or wherever. Everybody's heart gets broken. Everybody shits. Everybody hurts. We're all the same. And it's like Fresh Prince. You take a guy out of the inner city and you put him in Bel Air or whatever, and vice versa. It's like what was the Eddie Murphy movie? Trading Places.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Places, that's a good
yeah, you good analogy. You switch people and you put them in this different environment, but they're still the same people. And they find themselves out of their environment. But when all's said and done, perhaps they realize something within themselves, and they're better for it. You know what I mean? Because you can look at yourself and say, you know what, I'm not built for this.
Right.
I don't want to be around this anymore.
Right.
And I wish you all the best of luck, brother, but I'm out of here.
Right. And then you were like, that's it, I'm done. Yeah, and you're still bopping around doing odd jobs and all sorts of shit.
Yeah,
you're not dealing with that anymore.
It's just fine. It's like anyone else. When people say, "How long have you lived in LA?" and I always joke back and say, "You mean survive?" I've been surviving in LA since '91 because a lot of us are. I find it funny that there's people that have very well-paying jobs, and I'm envious of them, happy for them, proud of them, even though I don't know them. And yet they bitch and moan about, money problems and how they're broke and they don't have this and that. And then I'm moments away from living in my Subaru, and I'm still well fed and doing my own thing. The grass is greener on the other side.
I think living in the US and being surrounded by the materialism and that comes with capitalism.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, no matter what they earn,
unrealistic,
are constantly reaching outside of what they earn and wanting more.
I heard something. You were absolutely correct. I heard something when Tiger Woods was in that auto wreck. He hurt his back. And the guys on the news were talking about he may not play again. This is seriously going to hurt his ability to earn. I said, man, this motherfucker, this guy's Now he's not going to be able to make money. This guy's worth like $500 million.
Well, also bullshit. Like at the very least, he could be coaching billionaires how to golf.
Well, those who can, and those who can't teach, whatever the hell that is. But the point is that when I see people that are talking about, how am I going to put my kids through school, and they're living in $40 million mansions. And I know people right now that they got 3 kids. The first one, they just put her in school. She's $52,000 a year. The next one's going to...
What kind of school? High school?
No.
College?
It's they're all 10 to 12 years old, I think. 12 to 13. So,
Oh my God.
Yeah. Okay. And I know what the tuition is. And it's an all-girls school. And I butted heads a little bit. Not butted heads, but I had a discussion with the mother about me personally. I think it's sort of detrimental to separate boys and girls at that age because this one girl that we're talking about who's 12, she has a 9-year-old sister and a 10-year-old brother. Mm-hmm. The only time she's around boys is when she's with her brother and not at school. The idea is that you can learn better when you're not distracted with the boys and girls. But I think you're getting warped by not interacting.
Yeah, because the world's not like that.
That's exactly true. And also... there's a show called Mean Girls. I guess I've never seen it, but whatever. But I've seen what these groups of 12-year-old girls do and talk about.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm a grown man. I've been around the block. Uh-huh. And when I hear what comes out of their mouths, I'm like, man, if I had a daughter or even a son, I remember my dad would have took me in a corner and said, what did you just say? Or whatever, set me straight.
Yes,
but I mean, when mom's not around and, I'm driving and I hear them on their iPhone in the back, and it kills me to see these 10 and 11, 12-year-old girls get off the bus at this school, and they've all got an iPhone in one hand and a huge Starbucks in the other, and they're like 12 years old. And I'm just looking at them like this. Oh, and you know what? They're like a 40-pound backpack.
Yes.
I had a paper sack. It had a peanut butter sandwich and a ding dong.
Well, now it's all the extracurriculars,
I don't know what they're doing. What, bricklaying? I picked up one of her bags. I reached into the back seat to grab a bag to hand it to her. Fuck, I wrenched my shoulder. I got an old rotator cuff surgery. Yeah, I was like, what the fuck you got in there? It's my books. I'm like, man, I think you got brick collection or something.
Couldn't they put that on the iPhone, those books?
I don't know what. Well, think about this. Pretty soon there may not be books.
You're right. Maybe we'll just put a chip in everyone's head.
I saw a movie when I was young called Fahrenheit 459 or what I think that's what it was called, where they banned books.
Okay.
It's this future. The movie was made back in like 69 or something.
They banned all books.
All books were illegal. And if you were caught with them, I think they killed you or something. And so what happened was that they had these people that would choose a book and they would read it and memorize it. And so if you wanted to read a book or whatever, you had to go meet these people and they would sit down in front of you and talk the book to you. That was the only way to save literature.
Oh my God. What?
And the movie's fantastic looking. It looks like something that was futuristic, but it was made back in, like I said, I think the 60s.
Oh, wow.
Fahrenheit 459, I think.
Fahrenheit 459. Who starred in that?
You know what? It was a blonde-haired guy. I think his name was not Bartholomew, Montague, maybe, something like that.
Wow.
It's funny. I just mentioned in the gym the other day, and I said something about Jack LaLanne, and nobody knew who Jack LaLanne was, and I just all of a sudden felt like I was on another planet. And I had to pull up Jack LaLanne on the YouTube to show the world's first... the guy, women, housewives would turn on the TV at 9 a.m. to stand in front of the TV and do exercises with Jack LaLanne. Uh-huh. He was like the Richard Simmons, I guess. I can't think of anybody else right now, but it was just so funny that there's, it's like, I grew up on the Tonight Show, and then people will go like, oh, who's the new guy? Who's on it now?
The Tonight Show?
Yeah.
Jimmy Fallon?
Yeah. Oh, you mean Jimmy Fallon? And I go, no, the other guy. And they go, what's the other guy?
Jimmy Kimmel.
No, the other guy with the big chin. You mean Jay Leno? And I go, no, fuck Carson. Dude, there's only one Tonight Show in my book, and that was Johnny
Carson.
I grew up on Carson, and then there was Jack Parr before Johnny Carson, who was before me. But I came up on Carson, and I remember when Jay Leno took over, and then I sort of quit watching the show. But it's just funny because each generation has their superhero or their sex symbol or their sports star.
It just keeps reinventing itself.
It is.
It's kind of morbid.
Life is like that. It's like baseball. That's the same game. The only thing that's changing is the faces and the names. We still run the bases. Everybody's trying to get a hit and get on base or fucking get that home run, that whole thing. And but life is just like that. You know, when you have somebody that tries to cry about their predicament, and it's just like, dude, you're not alone. You know, you're not alone. And if you can find someone else that's been through it, I think it's safety in numbers. It makes you feel better when you're with somebody and you know that someone else is going through it or has gone through it. You know, and I think that's therapeutic. That's certainly helpful for sure. It's like if you don't have social media, like me, I have Instagram, but other than me holding up some trout at Big Bear, I don't use it like a lot of people do. And I'm envious of how they've learned to really utilize the likes of Instagram or I've never done TikTok. I've never done an X, you know, I think I have a membership, if you will, but I just never put anything on there. And one of the reasons is I'm afraid I'll do something wrong or I'll upload something or it won't come out right. And God forbid you say something that you get labeled as woke or something. You're
afraid of that.
You know, I think I am because
you're afraid of the cancel culture.
If a lot of people, in my life, there's been a lot of times where I've had people
mislabel you,
defend me, and say, you don't understand what he said. You know, like we've known this guy 30 years, 40 years. No, that's just John. That doesn't mean that John's being an asshole. I'm big on quoting lines from movies or maybe from a lyric of a song or something if it's appropriate for whatever I'm looking at. But that lyric or that line from a movie, if the people around me aren't familiar, haven't seen that movie or heard that song, they think that I just said something or made a statement that doesn't really sound right. And I'm like, fuck, you got to put it to music, brother. You know, I was making a joke. I was comparing something. It's just like me making this fantastic joke about Jack LaLanne and then looking around me and nobody even flinched.
Oh my God.
And I had to go, that's a joke. What do you mean, brother? Jack LaLanne. Here, let me pull it up on the YouTube to show you, because it's like they don't know what I'm talking about, so my joke just went over their head. You know, it's like I was a huge fan of Bob Hope and Sinatra, but I'm down with fucking Slayer and Skinny Puppy and Laibach and Severed Heads. I go way back deep. You know, just horrible fucking shit, horrible music.
Right.
But I love Sinatra. I got 2 autographs from him. I got a photo of him hanging in my apartment. You know, I run the spectrum. But if you don't know what the lyrics are, or you don't know what kind of music somebody's into, you will label them. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's cool.
But I have to pull. I saw this guy while I was on my 3rd scotch one night, and I was channel surfing, and I came across Puddles. Puddles the Clown.
Oh yeah, I remember Puddles the Clown.
He's this like older guy dressed up like Bowie from Ashes to Ashes video, and he sings these well-known heavy metal songs, but with this baritone, sad clown. The guy's Puddles the Clown. The guy's outrageous, man.
That's an industry that's pretty died out, is clowning.
Do
horror movies have to?
Well,
is it horror movies that ruined clowning for children, or is it just kids aren't into clowns anymore? They're too
Are you familiar
simple.
with the Seinfeld episode where there was a clown at the kids' party and George Costanza's mentioned Bozo the Clown, and the guy goes, "Who's Bozo?" And he got in this big argument about it. He goes, "Dude, Bozo.
Yeah.
He's the whole reason you're here.
Yeah.
Bozo the Clown." And he goes, "Look, dude, I've never heard of him. I've never heard of fucking Bozo. What was he, a clown?" He goes, "Yes. He's
Is
like
that the same episode where there's the fire and George shoves the kids?
And he shoves the old lady out of the fire."
No, but I do love there's another clown episode of Seinfeld where
they're trying to get into the movie theater.
Dating that guy, Pagliacci.
Yeah. But does he scare you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Kramer's like, "Are you scared of clowns?"
Jerry's being stalked by him. Jerry's being stalked by him.
Crazy Joe Davola.
Crazy Joe Davola.
He was dressed up as Pagliacci, the sad clown.
Yeah.
You don't like clowns, do you?
I love Seinfeld. What a great show. Well, John, it's been such a pleasure having you on. Thanks for sharing about this little small chapter of your life out here in the valley.
Each small chapter so funny.
You've lived a million lives, I feel like.
Dude, I've done so much, and I've done everything but what I set out to do.
What do you mean? It's all part of the mix.
But it is. I was just going to say that, and being part of the mix, I still have a goal. I still have
What's your big goal? What's the big goal?
Well, I'd like to be able to make a month's rent off of having been on camera.
1 month's rent from being on camera. That's achievable.
Is it? But the point is that in that pursuit, I will remain in the chase, so to speak. I'll be productive. I'll be, it's like I've done everything since I've come here. I'm a security guard. I've sold cars. I've been a scenic carpenter, an apartment manager. I've shot porn. I've done so many things to survive while in pursuit of the dream. It's like somebody that wants to end up pitching a major league ball game. He may not ever get there, but in his pursuit, he'll remain determined and industrious, and he'll survive or she'll survive. And
it's admirable.
The end result will be hypertension and your fucking liver's swollen up. There's a whole bunch of shit.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Meet My Friends. A huge thanks to John for stopping by and sharing his absolutely wild stories. It's truly a never dull moment with him. And of course, thank you for listening. Whether you're here for the chaos, the conversations, or just to feel a little less alone, I appreciate you. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to follow, rate, and review. It really helps more friends find the show. And if you're craving even more, stick around because right after this, I've got a brand new episode of Bravoholics Anonymous, where I deep dive into the season premiere of Summer House, Traitors, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and more. So cue it up, and I'll see you over there.